You're watching NBC4, Washington's news leader. Now, live in HD, this is News 4 at 4.
Free-flowing thousands of gallons of oil have now made their way into the Loop Current, which could carry the oil up the East Coast. This afternoon, the new assault being launched on the gushing oil well at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. Good afternoon. I'm Pat Lawson-Muse.
I'm Jim Handley. Today we're getting our first look at never-before-seen video of that burning oil rig that began what has become an environmental disaster. This video is from the National Geographic Channel. Hours after the April 20th explosion, you can see massive fireballs and thick smoke shooting into the air. Daylight pictures show the rig still burning and beginning to sink. 11 workers on board were killed. A one-hour special on the Gulf oil spill airs tonight on the National Geographic Channel.
Now, a new assault will be launched aimed at capping that massive leak. It's a method that's been used above ground, but never thousands of feet below the sea.
Yeah, the plan is to pump heavy mud into the equipment on top of the well, then seal it with cement. Meanwhile, BP is conceding that more oil than it initially estimated is flowing from that damaged well. Jay Gray begins our coverage now from Louisiana.
New images from the Gulf today. At the request of Congress, BP has now agreed to provide live streaming video from the leak site.
What you see are real-time images of a real-world disaster unfolding 5,000 feet below the surface of the Gulf.
Pictures that critics say prove more than 5,000 barrels of oil is pouring into the Gulf each day. And this video, released today, shows the intensity of the blaze in the minutes just after the explosion on the Deepwater Horizon well.
I knew that this was like seeing hell on earth. I've never seen flames that gigantic before.
The fire is out, but now 30 days later, the fear and frustration is only growing. Thick, dark crude is creeping into the Louisiana marshlands. Tuesday night, a sea turtle was pulled from the muck. He's being cleaned and treated at a New Orleans aquarium as concerns grow about more than just the oil threatening the marine and wildlife along the coast. Late Wednesday, the Environmental Protection Agency gave BP 24 hours to choose a less toxic form of chemical dispersant to break up the spill, citing concerns about the fragile ecosystem.
If we have to stop injecting dispersant for some period of time in order to make sure we're using the dispersant they would like, we will certainly do that.
An even bigger question is when they can stop the oil.
It literally could be life or death for many of these species.
A toxic threat from an unwelcome visitor, moving through an open gate to the coast. Recovery teams can't seem to close. To close that gate, engineers will have to seal the well. They hope to try that with a top kill procedure either Sunday or early next week. Jay Gray, NBC News, Venice, Louisiana.
Now, U.S. senators from Maryland and New Jersey have written letters to President Obama asking him to block oil drilling off the Virginia coast. In the letter, the lawmakers said a similar mishap on the East Coast would cause irreparable economic and environmental damage. Pat?
There are new clues that could help police in Fairfax County solve a high-profile murder. We're going to show you sketches of the men suspected of killing a handyman while trying to rob a mansion in Centerville, Virginia. Police say one of the men, the suspected gunman, is in his late 20s to mid-30s. Police say he's called Slim by the younger suspect, who appears to be between 20 and 25. Police are looking for a white Toyota truck that was seen leaving the scene of the murder. Investigators want anyone with information about the truck or the suspects to give them a call.
Police believe a body found at a recycling center in Prince William County has ties to Newport News, Virginia. The remains were discovered around 10 o'clock last night at the Canusa Hirschman Recycling Center here in Manassas. Authorities tell us the body was in a recycling container that was picked up in Newport News, then transferred to the facility here in Prince William County. There is no word yet on how the victim died or the person's identity. The first medic on the scene testified today in the Robert Wone case. Wone was a Washington attorney found stabbed to death in a townhouse of a college friend back in 2006. No one is charged with the murder, but three men, Joseph Price, Victor Zaborski, and Dylan Ward, are accused of covering it up. In court today, the medic testified that Zaborski seemed to be faking his crying, that Ward didn't seem to be upset, that he felt threatened by Price. The three men all lived in the DuPont Circle townhouse where Juan's body was found. The suspects waived their right to a jury trial.
A new investigation by Congress discovered the drinking water crisis from a few years ago was worse than first thought. Some even say the Centers for Disease Control misled the public about the danger. News 4's Megan McGrath reports.
In 2004, at the height of the scare involving lead in the district's drinking water, the Centers for Disease Control released a study concluding that exposure to high lead levels posed no significant risk to children. That study helped calm fears and took the issue of the district's water supply out of the limelight. But now, those conclusions are being blasted. A House subcommittee has concluded that the data used in that report was, quote, flawed, misleading, and incomplete. Experts testifying on Capitol Hill say that study must be retracted and the record set straight.
Deception, smoke and mirror gimmicks, perverted science. This is what the CDC embraces.
The subcommittee's report is entitled A Public Health Tragedy: How Flawed CDC Data and Faulty Assumptions Endangered Children's Health in the Nation's Capital. The report concludes that the CDC used bad data and omitted key blood tests when doing their analysis, leading them to falsely conclude that children were not being harmed when in fact they were. And investigators say the author of the CDC study knew about the bad data before reassuring the public.
Lead is a powerful neurotoxin. It has permanent adverse effects on kids. So they may be subtle in many cases, but we know that kids got harmed by this. And the concern is, we had kids that lost IQ points. We had kids that may have some behavior problems, learning problems, and so forth. Maybe lots of kids in D.C. over a period of 2.5 years. We can't really do anything about it.
Many may remember homes with lead feeder pipes, how those pipes were ripped out and replaced. Well, in 2007, the CDC presented a paper at a conference, including data which showed that the partial replacement of lead pipes actually elevated lead levels instead of reducing them. That data, though, according to this investigation, was only recently shared with the district government. From Capitol Hill, Megan McGrath, News 4.
Now, officials at WASA, which is the city's water agency, are assuring customers that city water is now safe to drink.
Members of the National Transportation Safety Board will meet this summer to go over the final report of last year's deadly metro crash. 9 people died last June when one metro train slammed into another. The NTSB held a public hearing earlier this year. So far, they have not come up with a definitive reason for the crash. The board meeting set for July 27th will examine new findings from the year-long investigation. A bill signing ceremony today in Maryland aimed at helping homeowners and bringing new rules of the road to drivers. Today, Governor Martin O'Malley signed a bill giving every Maryland family facing foreclosure the legal right to mediation. Another bill doesn't allow police officers to ticket drivers just for talking on their cell phones. They can, however, add the charge as a second offense. Another new law for drivers requires them to stay 3 feet away from bicyclists on the road.
Well, it's back. It was another gorgeous day across the region with the sun back and clear skies overhead.
Yeah, what are we going to do for the weekend, though? We're always thinking ahead. Veronica Johnson's tracking your forecast from the Storm Center. Veronica?
Hey, Veronica.
Hey there, Jim and Pat. Well, the weekend may not be as gorgeous as it's been today, but it's still going to be fairly decent across the area. Look at the gorgeous blue sky as we look toward the National Cathedral there. Nice blue sky. The dry air has finally arrived and scoured out all those clouds. 81 is the temperature right now in La Plata. It's also 81 in Benning and Petworth area around the district. Prince George's County, you're now at 78 degrees. Bowie and Landover and Springfield and Franconia, you're at 80 degrees currently. And of course, can't leave out our folks in Montgomery County, currently at 82 degrees. So we've got high pressure nosing in. A gorgeous evening for us. We'll drop to 73 by 9 o'clock with clear skies and then 68 by 11. So your fast forecast, good evening coming up. Even higher temperatures coming our way tomorrow. Some warmer air will be pushing in. And of course, we'll take a look at the weekend and time out that rain for you. Jim, Pat?
All right. Thanks, Veronica.
Mexico's president addressed a joint meeting of Congress today. He promised to do his part to cut illegal immigration into the U.S. He also promised more jobs and better jobs will be available in Mexico. Here's Steve Handelsman.
Felipe Calderón is the first foreign leader to address Congress this year.
The President of Mexico.
Calderón is Harvard educated.
Amigas y amigos.
He was elected in 2006 to battle the drug cartels and revive Mexico's economy, which Calderón says can keep Mexicans from wanting to work illegally in the U.S.
We are doing the best that we can do in order to reduce migration, to create opportunities, and to create jobs for Mexicans in our own country.
He says he does not favor breaking the rules, but he praised Mexicans he said are working hard for America.
That we admire them, we miss them, we are working hard for their rights.
Calderón called Arizona's new effort to catch illegal migrants racial profiling. In a statement, Arizona Senator John McCain called unfortunate Calderón weighing in on U.S. domestic policy. President Obama condemned the Arizona law last night as he hosted the Mexican president. Mr. Obama vows to push immigration reform. Backers of that say outrage at Arizona will help.
What it's doing is it's galvanizing the base in a way that we haven't seen in a long time, in almost 15 years.
But Congress has not agreed to take up an immigration reform law. I'm Steve Handelsman, NBC News, Capitol Hill.
Now, President Calderón also asked for something from the U.S. He urged Congress to halt the flow of arms from the U.S. into his country. He told lawmakers the violence in his country started to increase soon after an assault rifle ban expired in the U.S. in 2004. He asked Congress to consider reinstating the ban and to enforce existing laws.
Democrat Mark Kritz was sworn in today by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. On Tuesday, Kritz won a special election to fill Pennsylvania's 12th district seat. That seat was held by the late Representative John Murtha. He died back in February. Kritz was Murtha's longtime aide. The special election only fills the seat until the end of this term. Kritz is expected to face a tough battle in the fall to be elected to a full term.
Stay right there. News 4 at 4 just getting started. Under scrutiny.
Up next at 4:15, the investigation involving a Washington Redskins player being among other athletes who got performance-enhancing drugs.
Then at 4:30, the new details and word of a possible motive involving a reality TV star and bizarre murder-for-hire scheme.
And at 4:45, the number of people expected to hit the road on Memorial Day weekend and how that oil disaster in the Gulf may throw a wrench in your plans.